Kelvrath Soren had watched 17 species fall to the Dominion. He had recorded their defeats with careful detail, noting how each one crumbled when faced with superior numbers. It was his job as a military analyst for the Galactic Concord. He observed, he documented, he reported. And today, he would watch the humans of Verith 7 add their names to the long list of the conquered dot. His small observation vessel hung in orbit above the green and brown world. Below him, a human colony of 40,000 souls waited for the Dominion fleet to descend. Kelvrath counted the enemy ships through his scanner. 200 warships, countless landing craft. Enough soldiers to bury the colony 10 times over. The humans had 12 ships. 12. Kelvrath opened his recording device and spoke in his native tongue. Day 1 of observation. The Dominion has arrived at Verith 7 with overwhelming force. The human defenders are outnumbered approximately 15 to 1. Based on previous encounters with similar situations, I estimate complete human defeat within 6 standard hours. He paused the recording and watched the main screen. The Dominion flagship was broadcasting a message to the surface. War Chief Thalver appeared on the display, his scaled face twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Humans of Verith 7, Thalver said. "You are surrounded. Your pathetic fleet cannot save you. Surrender now, and some of you will be allowed to live as servants of the Dominion. Resist, and we will burn your colony to ash. You have 1 hour to decide." Kelvrath waited. He had seen this moment many times before. The desperate pleas for mercy. The attempts to negotiate. The slow realization that there was no hope. He prepared to document another species learning the hard truth of galactic politics. But the human response came in less than a minute. A man appeared on the communication channel. He wore a simple military uniform, and his face showed the marks of age and experience. His hair was gray at the edges, and his eyes held a calm that Kelvrath found strange. This was Commander Jack Morrison, according to the intelligence files. "War Chief Thalver," Morrison said. His voice was steady. "I received your message. Here is my answer. No." Thalver's smile faded. "No? Do you not understand your situation, human? Look at your numbers. Look at ours. This is not a negotiation. This is your death sentence." Morrison nodded slowly. "I understand math just fine. I also understand something you don't. Every person in this colony is under my protection. Every child, every family, every single life down there is my responsibility. And I will not hand them over to you or anyone else. So the answer is no. It will always be no." The communication ended. Kelvrath stared at his screen. He had never seen a response like this. He had watched species with 10 times the military strength beg for terms. Yet here was a man facing certain destruction, and he simply said no. He resumed his recording. Unexpected development. The human commander has refused surrender despite impossible odds. Either this is a bluff to buy time for evacuation, or humans are more foolish than initial reports suggested. Continuing observation. On the surface of Verith 7, Commander Morrison walked through the military base that served as their headquarters. Men and women in uniform moved with purpose around him. There was no panic, no chaos, just soldiers preparing for war. Lieutenant Katie Bowman fell into step beside him. She was young, barely 30 years old, but Morrison had seen her potential from the first day she joined his command. She had a mind for tactics that reminded him of himself at her age. "Sir, the evacuation tunnels are ready," she reported. "We can start moving civilians within the hour." "Good. Start with the children and elderly. Families with young ones go first." "And our defense plan?" Morrison stopped walking. He looked at the young woman who had trusted him with her career, her future, her life. "Katie, I won't lie to you. We're not going to win this fight. Not in the traditional sense, but we don't need to win. We need to hold them long enough for our people to escape and for help to arrive. Will help arrive, sir? I sent the distress call 3 days ago. Admiral Hartley is coming. I know him. He won't abandon us. Katie nodded. Then we hold the line. We hold the line. In the barracks, Sergeant Ben Greer gathered his squad around him. These were ground soldiers, men and women who had trained for years to fight in the worst conditions. They followed Greer through 2 previous campaigns, and they trusted him with their lives. Listen up, Greer said. His voice was rough from years of shouting orders. You all heard the broadcast. The Dominion thinks they're going to walk in here and take what they want. They think we're going to roll over and show our bellies like scared animals. He paused and looked at each face. Are we scared animals? No, Sergeant. The squad shouted in unison. Damn right we're not. We're human soldiers. And human soldiers don't give up. We don't surrender. We fight until we can't fight anymore, and then we find a way to fight some more. Every minute we hold these bastards back is another minute for our families to reach safety. Every Dominion soldier we put down is one less monster threatening our children. So when those landing craft hit the ground, what are we going to do? Fight, Sergeant. What are we going to do? Fight. Greer smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Get your gear. We move out in 30 minutes. And remember, they came here thinking they would find easy prey. Let's show them what happens when you corner a human. Calvrath watched the human ships begin to move into formation. They were not retreating. They were not hiding behind the planet. They were positioning themselves for attack against 200 warships. He spoke into his recorder with growing confusion. The humans are not behaving according to predicted patterns. Their fleet is assuming an aggressive formation despite overwhelming enemy numbers. Their ground forces appear to be preparing for offensive action rather than defensive positions. I do not understand this strategy. Perhaps humans process fear differently than other species. The Dominion fleet began its advance. War Chief Thalver had tired of waiting. The first wave of landing craft dropped from the warships and burned toward the planet's surface. And the 12 human ships flew directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. Calvrath leaned forward, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. This was not tactics. This was not strategy. This was madness. But as he watched the humans charge into certain death, a small part of him wondered if he was about to witness something no species had ever seen before. The battle for Vara 7 had begun. The first human ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Calvrath marked it in his records. 1 down, 11 remaining. At this rate, the human fleet would be destroyed in minutes. But then something strange happened. The dying ship did not drift away. Its pilot, in the final seconds before the reactor went critical, aimed a burning wreck directly at a Dominion cruiser. The explosion took both ships with it. Calvrath blinked all 4 eyes. Unexpected. The human pilot used his own death as a weapon. Recording for analysis. Captain Amy Vance gripped the controls of her fighter as she dove through a storm of enemy fire. Her squadron had started with 20 ships. Now, there were 8. But they had already taken down 2 Dominion cruisers, and they were not finished yet. Blue team, follow my lead, she commanded through the radio. We're going for the carrier on the left flank. Captain, that's suicide, one of her pilots responded. Their shields are at full strength. Then we'll have to get creative. Remember the asteroid drill from basic training? There was a pause. You mean the one where we thread through debris at maximum speed? That's the one. See that destroyed ship breaking apart? We go through it, come out the other side, and hit the carrier before they can track us. That's insane. Amy smiled. That's the plan. On my mark, she pushed her fighter forward, diving into the expanding cloud of debris from a destroyed Dominion vessel. Metal fragments bounced off her shields. Warning alarms screamed in her ears. But she kept her course steady, threading through gaps that seemed impossible. 4 of her pilots made it through with her. 4 more added their names to the list of the fallen. They emerged from the debris cloud directly beneath the Dominion carrier. The massive ship's weapons could not angle down far enough to hit them. Amy and her remaining pilots unleashed everything they had. The carrier's shields flickered and died. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. And then the whole ship came apart in a blast that lit up the darkness of space. Kelvrath recorded the destruction with trembling hands. 3 Dominion capital ships destroyed. Human losses significant, but the remaining vessels continue fighting with increased aggression. Note: humans appear to become more dangerous when they suffer casualties, not less. This is opposite to observed behavior in other species. On the surface of Vareth 7, the Dominion landing craft touched down in waves. Thousands of soldiers poured out, expecting to find humans hiding behind walls and barriers. Instead, they found Sergeant Ben Greer and his squad waiting for them in the open. "Hold your fire," Greer ordered. "Let them think we're surrendering." The Dominion soldiers advanced with confidence. Their commander shouted something in his alien language, probably demanding they drop their weapons. Greer raised his hand. Now, the ground erupted. Hidden explosives that his team had planted hours ago tore through the landing zone. Dominion soldiers flew through the air. Their formation shattered into chaos dot, and then Greer's squad opened fire. They moved like water through the confusion, each soldier covering the others. They did not stand still and shoot. They advanced, always forward, pushing the enemy back toward their own landing craft. Corporal Derek Shaw had never killed anyone before today. He was 22 years old, fresh from training, and his hands shook as he fired his weapon. But he kept moving because Sergeant Greer was moving, and he trusted his sergeant with his life. A Dominion soldier appeared in front of him. Shaw fired without thinking. The alien fell. Shaw kept running. Then he heard a sound that made him stop. A cry of pain. Not human. He looked down and saw a wounded Dominion soldier crawling through the dirt. The alien was young, probably their version of a new recruit. Its eyes were wide with fear. Shaw raised his weapon. This was the enemy. This was a monster that had come to kill his people. The alien raised one hand, palm out. A gesture of surrender. Of pleading, Derek Shaw lowered his weapon. He pulled a medical kit from his belt and threw it to the wounded soldier. "Fix yourself up. Stay down. Don't make me regret this." He ran to catch up with his squad, leaving a very confused alien behind. Greer noticed. "What was that, Corporal?" "He surrendered, Sergeant. I couldn't just..." Greer nodded once. "You did the right thing. We're not like them. Remember that. Now move." Aboard the Dominion flagship, War Chief Thalver slammed his fist against his command chair. This was supposed to be easy. A small colony with minimal defenses. A quick victory to add to his record. Instead, he had lost 3 capital ships and his ground forces were reporting heavy resistance. What are these creatures? He demanded. They should be cowering. They should be begging for mercy. Why are they attacking us? His tactical officer had no answer. Thalver watched the battle display with growing rage. The human ships were still fighting, even though half of them were destroyed. The ground forces were still advancing, even though they were outnumbered 10-1. Nothing about this made sense. "Send in the second wave," he ordered. "All of them. Crush these insects." Kelvrath intercepted the order and felt a chill run through his body. Thalver was committing his entire ground army. Either the humans would be overwhelmed, or something very unexpected would happen. He spoke into his recorder. "Observation. The Dominion commander is frustrated. He's abandoning careful tactics in favor of brute force. This suggests that human resistance has exceeded all predictions. I am beginning to suspect that previous intelligence about humanity was dangerously incomplete. In orbit, Amy Vance counted her remaining ships. 5 left. 5 ships against nearly 190 Dominion vessels. The math was not good, but then she received a transmission from Commander Morrison on the surface. "Captain Vance, we need you to hold for 2 more hours. Just 2 hours. Can you do that?" Amy looked at her pilots. They looked back at her. Every face showed exhaustion, fear, but also something else. Something that burned in their eyes like fire. "We'll hold, Commander. Whatever it takes." She switched to the squadron channel. "You heard the man. 2 hours. That's all. 2 hours, and then we go home. Who's with me?" 5 voices answered as one. "We're with you, Captain." They turned their ships toward the enemy fleet and flew back into the fire. Calvrath watched them go. He had studied countless battles across the galaxy. He had seen bravery and cowardice, genius and stupidity. But he had never seen anything like this. He began to understand something. These humans were not fighting because they thought they could win. They were fighting because there was something behind them worth protecting. They were fighting because surrender was not in their nature. And for the first time in his long career, Calvrath began to wonder if he was watching the wrong side lose. 6 hours into the battle, and the humans were still fighting. Calvrath had stopped predicting their defeat. His earlier estimates had proven worthless. The humans did not follow any pattern he recognized. They did not break when they should have broken. They did not run when running would have saved their lives. They simply kept fighting. He recorded his observations with a growing sense of wonder. The human defense has entered its 7th hour. Despite losing over 60% of their fleet and sustaining heavy ground casualties, they continue to resist. I have begun to notice something unusual. The humans are not trying to win this battle. They are trying to delay it. On the surface, Commander Jack Morrison stood in the underground evacuation tunnel. Thousands of civilians moved past him in orderly lines. Children held their parents' hands. Elderly citizens were carried on stretchers. Everyone moved with quiet purpose. "How many left?" Morrison asked Lieutenant Bowman. "About 12,000 still waiting, sir. At current pace, we need 4 more hours. 4 more hours." Morrison closed his eyes. His soldiers had been fighting without rest. His ships were nearly gone. But they needed 4 more hours. "Then we give them 4 hours, he said. "Where's Sergeant Greer?" He took his squad to hit the enemy supply depot. Said, "If we can't beat them with numbers, we can starve them of ammunition." Morrison almost smiled. That was exactly the kind of crazy plan Ben Greer would attempt. Tell him to make it count. The supply depot was 3 miles behind enemy lines. Greer and his 12 remaining soldiers had crawled through mud and debris to reach it. Now they crouched in the shadows, watching Dominion guards patrol the area. 12 guards, Greer counted. 12 of us? I like those odds. "Sir, they have heavy weapons," one of his soldiers whispered. "We have rifles. Then we better not miss." Greer pulled out his combat knife. "We go quiet. Take out the sentries, grab what we can carry, and blow the rest." Any questions? There were none. They moved like ghosts through the darkness. Each soldier knew their role. Each trusted the others completely. The guards never saw them coming. Within 3 minutes, the depot was theirs. "Load up on ammunition and medical supplies," Greer ordered. "Set charges on everything else. We leave nothing for them." As his soldiers worked, Greer walked through the supply stacks. He found something that made him pause. A container marked with symbols he did not recognize. He opened it carefully. Food. Alien rations meant for Dominion soldiers. Thousands of packages. A thought crossed his mind. The prisoners they had taken. The wounded enemies who had surrendered. They would need food too. "Take 2 crates of this," he told his soldiers. "We feed everyone. Even them. Sergeant? You heard me. We're not monsters. Now move." The explosion that destroyed the depot lit up the night sky. Dominion commanders scrambled to understand what had happened. Their soldiers on the front line suddenly found themselves running low on ammunition. And Sergeant Greer was already gone. In the field hospital behind human lines. Claire Dalton worked without stopping. She was a medic, 35 years old, and she had been operating on wounded soldiers for 8 straight hours. Her hands were steady even though her body screamed for rest. "Dr. Dalton, we need to evacuate you," an officer said. "The enemy is getting closer." Claire did not look up from her patient. "Is there anyone else who can do this surgery?" "No, ma'am. You're the only qualified surgeon left. Then I'm not leaving." She tied off a blood vessel and moved to the next wound. "Bring me more patients. I'll work until my hands fall off." The officer started to argue, but something in her eyes stopped him. There was no fear there, only determination. "Yes, ma'am. I'll have them bring the next group." Calvrath watched these scenes through intercepted video feeds. He saw soldiers fighting through wounds that should have killed them. He saw medics refusing evacuation to save one more life. He saw commanders standing with their troops instead of hiding in bunkers. He began interviewing captured human prisoners. Not for intelligence, but because he needed to understand. "Why do you fight?" he asked a wounded soldier named Marcus Hill. "Your situation is hopeless. You must know this." Marcus looked at him with tired eyes. "You see that kid over there? The one with the bandage on his head? That's my best friend's son. His dad died 2 hours ago, saving 3 other soldiers. I promised him I'd look after that boy. So I fight. For one child? For him. For the families in those tunnels. For the friends I've buried today. We fight for each other. That's something your Dominion will never understand." Calvrath moved to the next prisoner. Same question. Same kind of answer. They fought for their squad, their commander, their family back home. Every human had someone they were protecting. On the Dominion flagship, War Chief Thalver had lost his patience completely. His ground forces were stalled. His supply lines were disrupted. His ships had destroyed most of the human fleet, but the survivors refused to retreat. "Enough of this," he growled. "Target the civilian sectors. If they will not surrender, we will burn their families alive." His tactical officer hesitated. "War Chief, that violates the conventions of—" "I do not care about conventions. Fire on the colony." Orbital weapons powered up. Blue beams of energy lanced down through the atmosphere, striking the edges of the human settlement. Buildings exploded. Fires spread, but Commander Morrison had expected this. "Broadcast everything," he ordered. "Send this to every communication channel in the galaxy. Let everyone see what the Dominion does to civilians." Within minutes, the footage was spreading across galactic networks. Other species watched in horror as the Dominion bombarded residential areas. The Concord received thousands of outraged messages. The Dominion's reputation, already poor, crumbled further. And then something appeared at the edge of the Vara 7 system. Ships. Human ships. Not 5 or 10, but over 200 warships dropping out of faster-than-light. Travel in perfect formation. Calvrath stared at his sensors in disbelief. This is impossible. The nearest human fleet was supposed to be weeks away. How? But then he understood. The distress call Morrison had sent. The delaying tactics. The refusal to surrender. None of it had been about winning this battle. It had all been about buying time. Admiral Chris Hartley's fleet had arrived, and the Dominion's easy victory had just become a desperate fight for survival. Admiral Chris Hartley stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Resilience. Through the viewport, He could see the Dominion fleet spread out before him. 200 enemy ships. His scouts had told him the defenders of Varus 7 were down to 3 ships. 3 ships that had held against this armada. For nearly 7 hours, he felt something burn in his chest. Pride, rage, and something else that he rarely allowed himself to show. His communications officer looked up. "Admiral, the Dominion flagship is hailing us. War Chief Thalver wishes to negotiate. Put him through." Thalver's face appeared on the screen. The alien looked shaken. Gone was the confidence he had shown at the start of the battle. Now his eyes darted nervously between his displays. "Admiral Hardley," Thalver said, "I see you have brought a significant force. Perhaps we can discuss a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The Dominion is willing to withdraw if... No." Hardley's voice was ice cold. "Admiral, be reasonable. There is no need for further bloodshed. You had your chance for peace, War Chief. Commander Morrison offered it to you. You chose to reject it. You chose to attack our people. You chose to bomb our civilians." Hardley leaned forward. "Now I am offering you something different. You have 60 seconds to begin retreat. After that, I will destroy every ship in your fleet. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." Thalver's face twisted with anger. "You cannot speak to me this way. The Dominion does not retreat. We will crush you just as we were crushing your pathetic colony. 50 seconds. You arrogant human. Do you know who I am? I have conquered a dozen worlds. I have 40 seconds." Thalver cut the transmission. Hartley turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, attack Formation Alpha. Target their command vessels first. I want this finished within the hour." The human fleet moved like a single organism. 200 warships spread out in perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where to go and what to do. They had drilled for this moment countless times. Now, they would show the Dominion what a prepared human force could accomplish. The first Dominion cruiser exploded before it could even raise shields. Kelvrath watched the battle unfold with his 4 eyes wide. The humans were not just winning. They were taking the Dominion fleet apart piece by piece. Their ships moved with impossible speed, pulling maneuvers that would have destroyed vessels piloted by any other species. He recorded frantically. Human pilots are sustaining acceleration forces that exceed safe limits for most known species. They appear unbothered by G-forces that would cause unconsciousness or death in others. Their ships are designed to take advantage of human physical resilience. This represents a significant tactical advantage that was not present in previous intelligence reports. Captain Amy Vance had thought she would die today. Her squadron was down to 3 ships, and her own fighter was barely holding together. But when the relief fleet arrived, she felt energy flood back into her exhausted body. "Blue Team, we're not done yet," she called to her surviving pilots. "Form up with the Admiral's wing. Let's finish this." They joined the attack, 3 battered fighters flying alongside fresh warships. No one told them to fall back. No one suggested they had done enough. They were human pilots, and the fight was not over. On the ground, Major Ethan Cole and his Special Operations team dropped from orbit in armored pods. Their target was the Dominion command ship that had landed to coordinate ground operations. If they could capture or destroy it, the enemy forces would lose their leadership. Cole hit the ground running. His team spread out around him, moving through enemy positions with practiced efficiency. They did not stop to fight unless necessary. Their mission was the command ship. Dominion soldiers tried to intercept them. Cole's team cut through them like a blade through paper. Years of training, countless simulations, and actual combat experience made them deadly beyond measure. The command ship loomed ahead. Cole counted the guards. 30 at least. His team numbered 12. Standard breach protocol, he ordered. Flashbangs first, then we go in hard. Priority is the war chief. Take him alive if possible. And if not possible, sir, then make it quick. They hit the ship like a storm. Flashbangs blinded the guards. Cole's team poured through the entrance, their weapons firing in precise bursts. No wasted shots. No hesitation. In 90 seconds, they had secured the bridge. War Chief Thalver stood in the center of the room, surrounded by Cole's soldiers. His honor guard lay dead or wounded around him. His scaled face showed pure disbelief. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You are just mammals. Soft creatures from a soft world. How can you do this?" Cole stepped forward. "We're from Earth, actually. You might want to update your intelligence files. Earth is not soft. It's the most dangerous planet in this galaxy. And we're what grows there." He signaled his team. "Secure him. Commander Morrison will want to talk to him personally." In orbit, the Dominion fleet was collapsing. Ship after ship fell to human weapons. Those that tried to retreat were hunted down. Those that tried to surrender were accepted, their crews taken prisoner. Admiral Hartley watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. This was not pleasure. This was justice. These ships had come to enslave human colonists. They had bombed civilian homes. They had threatened children. Now they paid the price. But when the battle was clearly won, Hartley gave an order that surprised Kelvrath. "All ships, begin rescue operations. Recover escape pods from both sides. Enemy wounded are to receive full medical treatment." The observer blinked in confusion. They are saving their enemies? After what those enemies tried to do. He watched human rescue teams pull Dominion survivors from the wreckage of their ships. He saw human medics treating alien wounds with the same care they gave their own people. He observed prisoners being given food, water, and medical attention. On the surface, Sergeant Greer personally delivered the captured rations to the Dominion prisoners. They looked at him with fear, expecting execution or torture. "Eat," Greer said simply. "You surrendered. That means we take care of you now. When this is over, you'll go home." One of the prisoners, the young soldier that Derek Shaw had spared earlier, spoke up. "Why? We came to kill your people. We would have shown you no mercy." Greer looked at him for a long moment. "That's the difference between us. We choose to be better. Remember that when you go back to your commanders, tell them what happened here. Tell them what humans do to those who threaten our families. And tell them what we do after we win." He walked away, leaving very confused prisoners behind. Kelvrath recorded everything. The efficiency of human warfare. The devastation they could inflict when provoked. But also the mercy they showed after victory. The care they gave to enemies who had tried to destroy them. He was beginning to understand something important about humanity, and it terrified him more than their weapons ever could. 3 days after the battle, Kelvrath walked through the streets of the human colony. The fires were out now. Repair crews worked to rebuild damaged buildings. Children played in the squares while their parents cleaned up the debris of war. He had expected to see despair, trauma, the hollow eyes of survivors who had barely escaped death. Instead, he found something very different. He found hope. A group of human soldiers sat outside a cafe, drinking something they called coffee. They laughed and talked as if they had not been fighting for their lives just 72 hours ago. One of them noticed Kelvrath watching and waved him over. "Hey, you're that observer from the Concorde, right? Come sit with us." Kelvrath approached cautiously. "You are not concerned about having an alien in your company?" The soldier shrugged. "You didn't shoot at us. That puts you ahead of most aliens we've met recently. I'm Corporal Derek Shaw. These are my squad mates." Kelvrath sat down. He had so many questions. I have observed your species for many days now. I still do not understand you. How can you be so relaxed after such violence?" Shaw exchanged glances with his friends. "Because it's over. We fought, we survived, and now we get to enjoy the peace we earned. No point in staying angry forever. But you lost friends. Comrades. How do you simply move on?" Shaw's expression grew serious. "We don't move on. We carry them with us. Every person we lost is in here." He touched his chest. "They died protecting the people they loved. The best way to honor them is to live well, to enjoy the peace they gave us." Calvrath considered this. "Among my people, such losses would require years of mourning rituals. We would not be able to function for many cycles. No offense, but that sounds exhausting. Our people grieve, sure, but we also celebrate life. We hug our families tighter. We appreciate what we have. And if someone threatens it again, we'll fight just as hard as before." Later that day, Calvrath found Commander Morrison in his office. The human leader looked tired. Deep lines marked his face, and his movements were slow. But his eyes remained sharp. "Observer Soren," Morrison said, "I hear you've been interviewing my people. I am trying to understand your species, Commander. My report to the Concord will shape how the galaxy sees humanity for generations. I want to get it right." Morrison nodded slowly. "What do you want to know? Why did you refuse to surrender? You knew the odds. You knew your people would die. A more logical commander would have negotiated for the best possible terms." Morrison was quiet for a moment. He reached into his desk and pulled out a small photograph. He handed it to Calvrath. The image showed a human family. A woman with kind eyes. 2 young children with bright smiles. They stood in front of a simple house with a garden. "My daughter and grandchildren," Morrison explained. "They live on a colony 3 systems away. When I look at this picture, I see every family in this colony. Every child playing in the street. Every parent working to build a better life." He took the photograph back. "I refused to surrender because surrender would have meant slavery or death for 40,000 people who trusted me. Those families believed I would protect them. How could I betray that trust? How could I look at myself if I handed them over to monsters? Even if fighting meant certain death? Especially then. You see, observer, humans have a strange relationship with death. We fear it like any other species. But we fear some things more. We fear failing the people who depend on us. We fear letting evil win because we were too afraid to stand against it. We fear living as cowards more than dying as heroes." Calvrath wrote down every word. That evening, he found Lieutenant Katie Bowman watching the sunset from a hill overlooking the colony. She held a small device in her hands, looking at images on its screen. "May I join you?" Calvrath asked. Bowman nodded. She showed him the screen. 2 small faces smiled back at him. Human children with their mother's eyes. "My kids," she said. "Back on Earth with my husband. I look at this picture before every battle. It reminds me what I'm fighting for. You carry images of your family into combat. Every soldier does. Some carry pictures. Some carry letters. Some just carry memories. But we all fight for someone. That's the secret the Dominion never understood. They thought they were fighting an army. They were fighting 40,000 families protecting each other." Calvrath spent his last night on Vera 7 writing his report. He sat alone in his ship, surrounded by recordings and notes. Everything he had witnessed, everything he had learned, he began to write. To the Galactic Concord. "I have completed my observation of the human-Dominion conflict at Vereth 7. What follows is my analysis of why the cosmos should fear humanity. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the most advanced. Their technology is merely adequate, their numbers relatively small. By any objective measure, They should pose no threat to established powers. But objective measures fail to capture what makes humans dangerous. They fight with a fury that defies logic. They endure pain that would break other species. They sacrifice themselves for each other without hesitation. And most terrifying of all, they show mercy to defeated enemies. This last point requires explanation. One might think that mercy indicates weakness. With humans, it indicates the opposite. They are so confident in their strength that they can afford to be kind. They do not need to destroy their enemies to feel secure. They can let them live, knowing that those survivors will spread stories of human power throughout the galaxy. Other species fight for territory, for resources, for glory. Humans fight for each other, for their families, for the simple belief that no one should threaten the people they love. This makes them unpredictable. This makes them relentless. This makes them impossible to defeat through conventional means. You cannot break their spirit by killing their soldiers, because every death only makes the survivors fight harder. You cannot weaken them by attacking their civilians, because such attacks unite them in terrible purpose. You cannot negotiate their submission, because they would rather die than betray those who trust them. My recommendation to the Conqueror is simple. Do not provoke humanity. Do not threaten their colonies. Do not harm their families. Because if you do, they will come for you. And they will not stop until justice is done. The cosmos fears humanity not because they are powerful. The cosmos fears them because they are powerful and choose to be good. They could conquer the galaxy if they wished. Instead, they protect it. They rescue enemy survivors. They feed prisoners of war. They rebuild what they destroy. And in the end, that is the most terrifying thing of all. They are not monsters. They are protectors. And protectors never stop fighting for what they love. Calvrath finished his report as dawn broke over. Verith 7. He watched the sun rise over a colony that should have been destroyed. He watched human children run through the streets, laughing and playing as if war had never touched their world. And he understood, finally, why the cosmos feared them. It was not their weapons. It was not their tactics. It was not their refusal to surrender. It was the simple truth that when you push a human into a corner, when you threaten everything they hold dear, they become something magnificent and terrible. They become champions. And champions never fall.